All right, what's up guys? Noah here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I want to give you guys a quick little walkthrough of my new 2024 Crosstrek. I've had it since September, so not too new, but still relatively new to me. But really the main goal with this video is to just give you guys a good little rundown of what's been done to the vehicle so far. Since ownership, the one thing I've noticed with the 2024 platform is it's very limited on aftermarket support, but also limited on any content being put out with people that are modifying these things, doing any type of work to them. So I wanted to just give my own input on it, show what's been done to it, the reasons I've done what I've done to it, and overall just give you guys a quick little tour of everything that's been done so far. So yeah, I attended Subi Fest yesterday. My vehicle was in the Goose Gear and the Tiny Ricochet booth. I got a lot of questions on, what it's taken to build out the 2024 platform in terms of product compatibility. So yeah, I just wanted to give my own input on it, walk you guys through each and every modification I've made that's on it right now, but also modifications that I've run previously that have since then been swapped out. So yeah, we'll hop into it. I'll walk you guys through each and every part of it, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. So we'll go ahead and start off with wheels and tires. That was actually one of the first things I actually did to the vehicle. And one thing since owning this vehicle that I've learned is I've kind of been the guinea pig when it came to testing a lot of products. Because it's a new platform and a new generation of the Crosstrek, there was zero confirmation at the time when I bought it of what would be compatible with it, what would work from the previous generation, and be basically transferred over to this one. So yeah, a lot of trial and error. I've run into a handful of situations where I've learned the hard way, but yeah, that's really the main reason I wanted to put this video out there, just to be able to educate people who are in the same boat as me, wanting to build this thing out, but just intimidated overall by yeah, just the issues of product compatibility, things like that. So yeah, wheels and tires, like I said, first thing I ended up doing on it, so I went with the Icon Ricochet. It's a 17 by 8.5 plus 38 millimeter offset. I wanted to stay as close to stock spec as I could, but also just be able to get a little bit more aggression, a little bit better stance. Like I said, being the guinea pig, on the previous generation Crosstrek, I know a lot of people ran 15-inch wheels and looked awesome. I like the look of the beefier tire, but with the 2024, the upgraded caliper size does not allow you to run the smaller rim. So there are some brake conversions out on the market now that allow you to run the smaller rim, but I wanted to keep my factory warranty. I didn't want to void anything like that, so I opted to go close to stock, or as close as I could to stock. So yeah, 17 by 8.5. They were black. I sprayed them bronze. Just, you want a Subaru, why not spray bronze? Paired with that, I have the BFGoodrich K02. This is a 225/65/17. At the time I got these, super happy with them. I will say though, I do regret not doing a bit more research on tires prior to jumping into the BF. Coming from the Tacoma and truck market, I heard nothing but great things about the BFGs. Again, great tire. I don't have many complaints about them, but really when it comes down to Subarus and this specific tire size, one thing I wasn't aware of previously was that they're actually super heavy for what they are. So comparable to your Falcon Wild Peak, Open Countries, anything like that, these actually are substantially heavier. So I put these on my car. I ran them for maybe about a month and my fuel economy just completely tanked. So I was actually so worried about the hit I took to fuel economy that I took the car to Subaru, had them do a full walkthrough of the fuel system to make sure I didn't have any fuel leaks or nothing was really affecting the mileage in terms of like mechanical error or anything like that. So yeah, come to find out, it was wheels and tires. Over stock, I went up 15 pounds per corner, just tires alone. And then the wheels, I went up about 5 pounds per corner. So collectively, I'm about 80 pounds heavier over stock, which explains the reason that I took the massive hit in terms of my fuel economy. But it's one of those things, you pay to play. So I'm not too concerned with it. But again, if I did my research early on, I probably wouldn't have gone this route, but that'll be something I swap out here in the near future. And then, yeah, jumping in next, suspension, that's the closest thing. So I did suspension early on the car. I wasn't running the exact setup I'm running now. So originally, again, I didn't want to void any type of warranty. I still wanted Subaru to be able to cover what they could, but also just get the vehicle to the standing I wanted in terms of drivability, a little bit extra ground clearance, a lot of different factors. So I went the Rally Tech spacer route. And again, one of those guinea pig situations. I went with the 2-inch spacer in the rear, or sorry, the 2-inch spacer all around. And the one downfall to it was they didn't make a kit specific to the 2024 yet. So I ran the previous generation kit and had no issues with it early on. But one thing that I did learn over time was no matter how frequently I torqued the spacer on the front passenger side coilover, no matter how frequently I torqued it, that thing would break loose pretty much every time I hit a trail. So I quickly learned that I wasn't super stoked on the spacer route. It really didn't affect the driving performance. It didn't affect the comfort. It still drove the same way it did stock. I'm not 100% certain if that's because of the unibody design or what that entails, but yeah, I wasn't super mad about the spacer route. I also wasn't super satisfied though. So I only ran that setup for about 3 months before jumping into the Ironman Spec-C coilover kit, which has also had a list of issues that I've unfortunately run into. I'll get into that shortly, but yeah, spacer route, for anyone who plans on doing more mellow off-roading, nothing crazy, not wheeling the car super hard, the spacer route honestly is a great option for someone who's on a budget, really just trying to get the looks and stance, but also a little bit of functionality. Those spacers are great. So yeah, again, I swapped them out now to the Ironman kit, and the Ironman kit so far has been great for me outside of some small issues I've run into. So I put the Ironman kit on back in April. Now we're at the beginning of August, and I've had the entire kit warranted once already. The issue is kind of persisting, kind of not. But yeah, put it on back in April. Shortly after I put it on, I had a clunking issue coming from the front end. Tried chasing it down, couldn't find a single thing. Brought it into the garage, just did a full inspection on my own. Wasn't able to find anything. So I ended up taking the car to Subaru because at the time I wasn't sure if it was Ironman related or Subaru related. So Subaru did full 48-hour inspection on the car. Couldn't find a single thing. No issues whatsoever. And then, yeah, time went on, still had the clunking issue coming from the front end. I figured it was sway bar related, but really couldn't figure out what it was. So ended up pulling the sway bar on the front, and the issue got even worse. So yeah, randomly, I just at work one day decided I'm going to pop the hood open, give the car a little shake and see if we can find anything noticeable to the eye. And the one thing that we found was the top hat on the coilover itself was just completely popping in and out of place. It was torqued to the spec that Ironman has in their instructions. Everything was 100% accurate. Still was having top hat related issues though. So yeah, I ended up reaching out to Ironman, got those replaced. It kind of resolved the issue early on. And at the time, I thought that my clunking issue was 100% fixed. I was super happy, took it out on a trail. I even made a comment to my girlfriend about 5 minutes into the trail, and I said, my suspension's finally dialed. And shouldn't have said that because I absolutely jinxed myself. And I ended up having a clunking issue now pop up on the rear end. So again, couldn't figure out what the exact issue was. But putting thought into it, I was able to figure out the exact issue. So when Subaru performed the full inspection, the 48-hour inspection, they noted that when they had it on the lift, they saw my rear sway bar end links were completely bent. So I'll throw up some images of the sway bar end links on the screen so you guys can see. But yeah, due to the additional height that you're getting out of the Ironman kit, I know the kit basically, it compensates for the additional 2 inches by adjusting the geometry of other components, which, you know, people have had zero issues with, but not sure if it's 2024 Crosstrek related or what the real issue is. But yeah, because of the kit itself, it actually bent the sway bar end links on the rear. So I ended up pulling the rear sway bar too, which I didn't want to do at all. I didn't want to pull the front or the rear. Primarily just, you know, through conversation, you hear about the way it affects drivability of the car, more body roll. You kind of get that fear instilled in you. But I wasn't really too concerned with it at the time. I pulled them off, and it's driven the exact same way as OEM. It's a little bit more rocky, I would say, when wrapping corners, but not substantial enough to have any type of fear. It still drives really well. And I did gain a little bit of benefit out of it just in terms of off-road performance. I've noticed just a lot more articulation in all 4 corners, which is really nice. So I can't complain too much there, but really the biggest concern for me with the Ironman kit was I was having to modify factory components to make what's called a bolt-on kit work on my car. So that was a bit of a bummer. But since I've pulled the sway bars, I got the rear coilovers warranted as well prior to pulling the sway bars. So I pretty much have a brand new kit installed on the car right now. And I probably have maybe 150, 200 off-road miles on it so far on the new updated kit. And I've had no issues as of now. So fingers crossed that stays consistent. But yeah, overall, really happy with the Ironman kit. It's what I had my eyes on when I first got my Crosstrek. But again, I didn't want to affect the warranty or anything like that. So it's just one of those things I should have just, buy once, cry once. I should have just stuck to my guts from the start, because I learned quickly that even with the spacers, Subaru is not willing to work with you at all in terms of warranty, at least at my dealership. So yeah, made the sacrifice, jumped to the Ironmans, and yeah, for 2024 owners, those are just some of the things to be aware of. Look out for sway bar end links. Again, I don't know if it has everything to do with the Ironman kit, but just based on tendencies and track record, it's pretty easy to track down that the Ironman kit is kind of what caused it. And there are some workarounds. I've seen people run the Rally Tech extended sway bar end links. I know there's some other ones on the market. At the time, I just wasn't in a financial position to be able to plunk down that much to upgrade the sway bar end link. So my easiest solution was just to pull it. And honestly, I've been really happy with it. So for anyone who is curious about pulling the sway bars, yeah, had no issues. Again, body roll isn't crazy substantial. It's still a lot more comfortable overall driving with this suspension setup without any sway bars. So yeah, if you're worried about pulling them, I would say don't have that concern. You'll be perfectly fine with it. So yeah, that's wheels, tires, and suspension. We can jump into the lighting now, which let me just readjust the camera really quick. So yeah, jumping into the lighting, lighting's super important to me. I camp alone with my girlfriend a lot. We typically go out only vehicle, and we're doing a lot of nighttime driving. So having good visibility for me when you're in the middle of nowhere by yourself was pretty crucial. So on my F-150 before this, I was running all Baja designs, and I wanted to stick to that when I hopped over to this vehicle too. So I know there's a lot of other lights on the market, KC highlights, diode dynamics. I know those are really popular, at least in the Crosstrek space. And also a lot of cheaper options popping up on Amazon, eBay, anything like that. I mean, you can get a pair of little pod lights for 30 bucks today. So for me, when it comes to lighting, I wanted to go with something that was tried and true, something that is trusted overall. But again, one of those buy once, cry once situations. Just do it right the first time so you're not having to invest more in the future. And Baja Design suited that perfectly. So I had really good experience with their lights on my truck before, which is the main reason I wanted to hop over to the Crosstrek with the same light setup. So yeah, first thing I did, fog light conversion. They didn't offer that for the 2024 Crosstrek. Luckily, we have a pretty good relationship with Baja Design, so I was able to transfer the Squadrons that I had over on my truck that I was using as a ditch light, and I was able to get the fog pocket kit for the previous generation Crosstrek. Had to make some slight modification, add in a couple washers here and there to get like correct fitment, but was able to get them in relatively easy. Had to pull a couple body panels, but yeah, overall, really wanted to just stick those lights out or make that the first thing I did, because again, I wanted good visibility. So this specific light is the Squadron Pro. They're offered in both the Sport and the Pro. Primary difference is the lumen output. When I'm building this car, I didn't want to go overkill with it, because at the end of the day, it's a Crosstrek. It's not going to be doing crazy extreme stuff, but I still wanted to make it capable, and I wanted to, allow myself to safely get what I want to get done, be able to get to the places I want to get to. And again, doing nighttime driving, I wanted to have enough light output. So I opted to go with the Pros. So that's the Squadron Pro down there with the driving combo pattern. Those are wired to the factory fog light switch in the car. So yeah, I have a separate switch system for my other lighting, which I'll hop into, but those are wired directly to the existing harness in the car. But yeah, so fog light conversion, hopping up to the hood, I wanted to add some ditch lights, and I did that pretty early on too. That was an early modification. Again, just allowing myself to get a little bit more visibility, but not go overkill with the build. So I opted for the S2s. A lot of this car has been a lot of function over form, but I also wanted to keep form in mind too. So the S2s are very proportioned to the sizing of the Crosstrek. I've seen some people running the Squadrons as ditch lights. You are going to get more light output out of the Squadrons, but for me, the S2s have done their job really well, so I haven't felt the need to swap them out. These specifically are the S2 Sports, and those are wired to the switch system, which I'll show you. And those are mounted to a set of diode dynamic ditch light brackets. So I know, ironic, I'm running diode dynamic brackets. No one really offers a ditch light bracket that I was super happy with. The diode dynamic ditch light brackets are actually, they're slotted, so you get some cool adjustability to offset the light enough to where you're not going to get any hood reflection. You can mount them in a really nice location and make sure that you can really just use them as a ditch light as they're intended to be. So yeah, I have those mounted up. on those brackets, and then I'm going to move the camera to the back side because I have some more lights on the back, a couple more sets of lights I should say. So let's move back there really quick. So yeah, hopping here to the rear end, still running Baja designs on the back. I'm running a pair of S1s. I was actually running these as a fog light on my F-150. My girlfriend gifted them to me for a holiday. I had them mounted originally as chase lights on my F-150, and then I opted to run them as a fog light instead. So that's the really cool part with the S1 is they're very versatile. You can run them in any location on a vehicle. I have seen on Tacomas, pretty cool location, but you can actually mount them if you're running like an aftermarket, like high clearance front bumper. You can mount them on some of the frame hardware to get a nice little, side shooter light, but also keep it concealed to where you don't actually see it. So yeah, a lot of different options in terms of mountability for these lights, but I opted to run them as a chase light on here. These are also ran directly to my switch system under the hood, and super satisfied with these lights. They're really small. In writing, they actually put out more lumen output than the S2s that I have up on my hood. So I've considered swapping those to the front end. There's some companies on the market that make ditch light brackets that mount behind the mirror on your side door. So SMK Fabrications, I'm drawing a blank of the other company name, but I considered doing that just because they're very small, and I don't like having lights visible on my car. I like having them tucked away, but also still serving really good function. So yeah, for now though, these are great. Again, driving alone at night, I like being able to have some visibility in all corners. So having these on there has allowed me to do so. I flip them on when I'm on a trail by myself. And yeah, really functional. And if you guys couldn't tell, everything's amber on this car. Main reason is just the type of off-roading that I do. Like I said, I do a lot of nighttime driving. It gets super dusty, obviously, on the trails I do. So amber allows me to have some really good visibility at night. But also this past winter, I was camping pretty much every other weekend with my girlfriend, and we don't roll into camp till midnight. So I really just wanted a light that was going to help in dust, snow, pretty much all conditions. And these by far have been super versatile for that. So I have zero complaints about Baja Designs. Great company to work with. They back their warranty really well. They have a lifetime warranty. They'll swap out lights if they're simply just the bezel itself is fading, which is really cool, or they'll at least replace it. So yeah, again, really easy company to work with, super laid back, great team. So yeah, I couldn't be happier with the light setup. And then jumping over to the side, I'm going to adjust the camera one more time. So yeah, jumping over here on the side, the only non-Baja designed light that I'm running is this Frontrunner little floodlight. It's integrated into the side handle, mounted directly to the roof rack that I'll walk you guys through here shortly. But I got one on both the driver and the passenger side. So again, I don't roll into camp until midnight in most cases. It's just me and my girlfriend, no one else. So being able to just have like a nice little, flood lit spot to do what we need to do before bed, get dressed, get the bed set up, anything like that. It's nice just having a little bit more visibility and not having to rely on the cabin lights inside the car. So those have allowed me to do so. I am going to be making some lenses that are going to be snap-on or something you can just kind of throw on pretty quickly, both in amber and red, just to kind of have a little bit more versatility to the light. But yeah, super happy with these lights. They've done exactly what I need them to do. I've seen people run, stuff like the S1s or the S2s as work lights. Really cool option if you have the like the dimmability option within your switch system. I don't know if dimmability is a word, but being able to dim your light on your switch system, it's a really cool option. In my case, it's been more than perfect for me. It puts out enough light. It's not blinding to the eye, but it's just enough to where you have like a nice little flood section to get what you need to get done. So yeah, we'll hop into the rack next. So jumping over to the rack now. So I've had a couple different setups, this being my second setup. But yeah, this specific rack is the Frontrunner Slimsport rack system made specifically for the Crosstrek, the 2024 Crosstrek. And I opted for the standard fairing. I don't have the cutout for a light bar because like I said, I'm not going to be running any additional lighting. But so far, I've been super happy with this rack. I've had it on since I want to say April now, maybe a little before. And it's done exactly what I needed it to do. I have my rooftop tent mounted, which again, I'll hop into here shortly. But yeah, touching on some existing rack setups. So prior to this guy, I was running the factory Subaru rails. And again, me being new to the Subaru scene, I didn't have a lot of knowledge on what could and couldn't be done and what could be affected if you do things a certain way. So with the factory rails, I was running a set of the Yakima Jetstream crossbars. So it's a little like strap style mounting system, just kind of has a buckle that you secure. And I was running the rooftop tent with that setup. So Couple things I learned with that specific setup, similar to my suspension issue, no matter how frequently I torqued the foot on that load bar system, it would continue to loosen. And I honestly think it's just because this tent's a sail, and when you're driving higher speeds, you kind of just have some more wear and tear on it. So yeah, not sure if that was the case, but was running into issues with that. But the other issue I was running into, and I wasn't aware of before, but Crosstreks are known for having extremely fragile roof systems. So can't speak on the Outback or the Forester or other Subaru platforms, but the Crosstrek specifically, the roof cannot withstand a lot of weight unless you have a proper rack system mounted. So in my case, the 2024 Crosstrek, due to the curvature of the roof, when I mounted the crossbars to the factory rails, if I wanted them to sit at, you know, a level plane, I had to have them pretty narrow on the roof. So when you're mounting a rooftop tent, obviously the concern that comes up is you're putting way too much stress in a small section of the roof. And I slowly kind of learned that that was a really big problem. I'll try to get some shots close up, but I have dents along this entire door frame above my windows because of the excessive weight being added on from the tent. So I ended up going over to a full rack system. It was something I was super interested in doing from the start, but I did hear, you know, having to drop the headliner. It's just a tedious install overall. So I tried to avoid going that route, but eventually ended up going that route, obviously. And I should have just done it from the start. Weight distribution in terms of the weight I'm carrying now is a lot better. The roof can handle the load now without any issues. I haven't had any new dents form, and that's with the weight of the tent, which super lightweight tent, only 96 pounds, and then both myself and my girlfriend sleeping in the tent. So I'm not super light. She's relatively light compared to me, so it's not substantial weight being added in, but enough to obviously cause some type of damage when running the wrong rack system. So if you plan on running a rooftop tent like this, I would say 100% try to avoid the crossbar route. I know a wedge style tent like this isn't super common on Crosstreks or Subarus in general. A lot of times you'll see your traditional flip out tents, which is a lot better to run because your ladder's taking a little bit of the weight. You're not putting as much stress on your roof directly, but still, in this case, I wanted to make sure that I had something that was functional because I already had the tent and I don't want to switch the tent, but I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be detrimental to the car. So yeah, this rack has been great, a lot of modularity to it. When I pull the tent off, I have some Frontrunner like hard cases, soft cases. You can mount your traction boards, you can add extra fuel, just a lot of modularity overall. So that's what really sold me on the Frontrunner system. I know a lot of people run Prinsu, but really, one of the main factors for me was the weight capacity of the Frontrunner. I have seen Prinsus run into some failures in terms of, you know, the weight load that it can withstand. We have Prinsu on our Tacoma at home, and even with very little load, you'll see a little bit of bowing on the crossbar. So that's something that I knew, running as much weight as I'm carrying, I didn't want to run into that and be a little bit more prone to having the rack system fail on me. So this was just one of those things. Just it's another buy once, cry once kind of thing. You want to make sure you're doing it right the first time. That way you don't have to go back and spend double the amount just to do it right later in the future. So yeah, couldn't recommend this rack anymore. It's an awesome rack. It does exactly what I need it to do. It looks great. It fits the body lines really well of the Crosstrek. And yeah, it looks good too. So yeah, above that, I got an Alu-Cab LT50 rooftop tent. Nothing but good things to say about this tent. So like I mentioned earlier, I had an F-150 before this. I still have it, just don't drive it. But on the F-150, I had a fiberglass shell, and the truck was a 1998. It was my grandpa's. And with a truck that old, running fiberglass that old, I was scared to run a heavier rooftop tent, just fragile fiberglass. It's old. So I wanted something that was lightweight, that wasn't going to cause any type of damage to the fiberglass. And this tent appealed to me a lot. So yeah, tent comes in just around 96 pounds, and it's really cool. It's extremely modular, but the biggest selling point for me was just the ease of setting it up and tearing it down. So as I've mentioned multiple times, I don't roll into camp until midnight, and the last thing I want to do when I roll in that late is have a crazy long setup process, have to throw a ground tent or set up a rooftop tent that just takes forever. I wanted something that had the ability to store a little bit of my bedding, but also something that was just modular overall. So the LT50 is suited that perfectly. I'll go ahead and pop it open in a separate clip, but yeah, as it sits right now, I'm running standard LT50. I had my chase lights mounted on the rear. In terms of accessories, I have the molly plate mounted to it, also offered by Alu-Cab. And cool part about that is you can't store the ladder inside the tent. but there is a ladder bracket that you can mount directly to this molly plate, so you don't have to keep it in your trunk. It's a telescoping ladder, so you can just keep it tucked away on your roof and just kind of forget about it. It's just there, it does what you need it to do, and you don't have to worry about any type of storage inside the cab. So I got the molly plate, and then I also have the rainfly, which comes separate. I haven't really had to deploy it super often, but it's there if I need it. I keep the fly itself inside the tent. I'm still able to close the lid. And again, if I do need to use it, I can easily pull it out, deploy it in 30 seconds, and I'm good to go. But yeah, in terms of other accessories, there's a whole list available for this thing. And the entire construction of it is fully aluminum, so it's super lightweight. Like I said, the weight was the biggest selling point for me. You have extrusion running along the entire perimeter. It's all M8, so yeah, standard M8 hardware. Like I said, I have my chase lights mounted. I can mount some external handles if I wanted to. If I wanted to have side lighting mounted to the tent, I can mount it directly to here. But yeah, again, the modularity is just, it's really cool. Back on the molly plate, you can throw some extra fuel up there. You can throw some, traction boards. You can really mount anything to it. You just have plenty of real estate to mount whatever you want to it. So, yeah, in my case, I leave it pretty open just in terms of the aerodynamic. I don't really want to have anything else mounted to the roof, but if I do want to, this roof can hold almost 70 pounds, which is really cool. And that's due to the aluminum construction. So yeah, again, nothing but great things to say about this tent. There are some other competing tents on the market that are in the lightweight market. The inspired Overland tent is a good example. There's a lot of tents starting to hit that lightweight market that people are kind of aiming towards right now. But truthfully, I think Alu-Cab is just kind of taking the cake in terms of, again, the ease of opening and closing it, the modularity factor of it, but overall just the build quality. Fully aluminum, this thing's indestructible. I've taken out a few trees at camp forgetting to close the tent, and I have zero scuff on it. The powder coat's really good. Yeah, and overall, I've had nothing but a great experience for it. It comes with a high density foam mattress inside that's super comfortable. I haven't felt the need to add like a mattress topper or swap it out. I can keep a couple blankets in there. The only thing I can't store is my pillows, so I just keep those in the cab, but that's not the end of the world for me. As long as I can keep a little bit of my bedding, that's more than enough. So yeah, the entire thing is really sealed as well. You have a bulb seal that runs around the entire perimeter of it. So even with the bedding closed inside, when the lid compresses, that seal really catches onto the base. So I don't have to worry about water intrusion or dust intrusion, anything like that. I do air it out pretty frequently just to minimize any condensation or moisture, which is nothing against this tent specifically. Any tent can develop that. So I just take those precautionary steps to make sure that isn't going to happen in my specific tent, and running it for over a year now, I haven't had that issue a single time. So yeah, tent, super awesome. Alu-Cab is super strong in the overland space. They specialize in camper systems. They make canopies, rooftop tents. This is the baby of the bunch. There is the full-size rooftop tent, the Gen 3R. It's just way too big for this car, but the creature comforts you get out of the Alu-Cab system are just second to none. Plenty of competing products on the market, but from my experience so far, and just from other friends that run the Alu-Cab products, you can't go wrong with it. Another one of those buy once, cry once situations. This is honestly a lot higher in value than any other rooftop tent in the lightweight market, but you're buying into something that's just going to simply work. You don't have to worry about, is this going to fail on me at camp? Is it not going to do what it needs to do? It just works. It's on my car. I forget about it. I get to camp, I pop it open, and simple as that. So yeah, great tent system overall. So hopping back over to the lights, like I said, I am running a switch system within the vehicle to help a little bit with the wiring and overall simplicity of just running all the lights that I have on the vehicle. So in my case, I'm running the Trigger 4 Plus system. I had it on my F-150. My main reason I'm running it on this car is I just wanted to swap over what I could from the F-150, try to save as much money as I could if the products were compatible. Luckily, that trigger system is fully universal, so had no issues with that. Really the biggest selling point for me on the trigger system was the simplicity of the install. So I do plan on swapping it out. I'll get into what I plan on switching over to, but temporarily, yeah, the trigger system's in there. Again, the biggest selling point for me was simplicity. I don't have to run any type of wiring through the firewall, which stood out to me a lot. I wanted to keep it as basic as possible, but also keep it really functional. So yeah, the trigger system is fully wireless and Bluetooth. So you'll have a little wireless remote switch that you can keep in the cab. You have 4 separate switches on it to run up to 4 pairs of lights. So In my case, I had my ditch lights wired to it. I had the work lights on my side of the rack mounted to it or connected to it. And then I also have my chase lights on the back of the tent. So again, don't plan on adding any additional lighting, but if I did want to add one more set, I had one more switch open for it. But yeah, again, the simplicity of the trigger, I didn't have to run anything through the firewall, so the install is really clean. I do have kind of a rat's nest under there right now just because of the additional cable that came with it. But I can cut it down, make it look good. But yeah, in terms of what I'm planning on switching over to, so very comparable products. Garmin, who makes watches, Overland accessories, they make what's called the power switch system, and very similar concept. Really, it's fully wireless. You don't have to run anything through the firewall. Very simplistic in terms of keeping your wiring looking nice and all in one designated space. You're not having a bunch of terminals going to the battery. It's a really nice wiring setup. The biggest selling point for me on the Garmin system, though, is I don't like having physical switches on my dash, primarily just because there's no kits made specifically to mount a switch system onto a Crosstrek, or at least one that looks good at least. So the Garmin system actually is CarPlay compatible. So there's an app that's supported for CarPlay, and your switches are directly on your screen. So that's really cool to me. Again, I don't have to run any type of physical switch on my dash, have to try to find a way to get creative and mount it. It's just as simple as clicking on an app on my screen, and I can power all my lights there. So yeah, that's really cool to me. I wanted to keep it as basic again as I could, just like the remainder of this car, but keep it super functional. So I do plan on running the Garmin setup here in the near future, but for now, that trigger system's been great. I got mine on Amazon for, I want to say, like 280 bucks. So not a crazy price point. I've seen people run stuff like the S-Pod system, the Switch Pro system, which both of those are great. But for people who are on a budget, that trigger system, I recommend it. You will run into some shortcomings though. So I did have some issues in terms of the connectivity to it. I had the little remote control. I had it connected to the system. I was running the fog lights on my truck at one point, pulled in front of a restaurant with the lights on, and the remote basically just completely disconnected. So yeah, had some issues again with connectivity, both the phone and the remote itself. So I wanted something that's a little bit more reliable, something that wasn't going to be problematic. But since then, I haven't had many issues with it. So yeah, plan on running the Garmin here pretty soon. But it's pretty much done what I needed to do up until this point with that trigger system. So jumping back over to the chase lights, in terms of the wiring, again, I wanted to keep everything clean. I didn't want it to look terrible, but keep it functional. I ended up having to get a little creative with wiring them, which isn't out of the ordinary by any means. It's super common in terms of the way I went about wiring it, but just wanted to run you guys through it. So was able to keep the wiring super concealed. I have it routed along the side arm of the roof rack, so you don't even see it. But in terms of getting it connected to the switch panel, or I'm sorry, the switch module that's underneath the hood, I had to find a way to basically run it down the A-pillar. So Baja Designs has what's called wire hider. I'll get some clips of it up close for you to see it. But yeah, really cool system for those who really aren't familiar with it. Basically what it is it's like a little rubber channel that you can adhere to your windshield. It looks super clean. It doesn't stand out substantially. When I'm driving, it doesn't affect my visibility. I don't even see it when I'm inside the cab. But it allows you to basically run wiring down your A-pillar without actually seeing any type of wire. It just looks like it's a little rubber insert that runs along your A-pillar. So I have both the chase lights and my work side lights routed directly down the A-pillar using that little wire hider kit. And again, it's helped with the cleanliness of keeping everything wired properly and cleanly. And I have all my wiring sleeved too. Again, just trying to make it as clean as possible, protect it. I didn't want to have any issues that came up and have to redo it over time. So just wanted to do it right the first time. So yeah, I got that running there. Hopping over to this side of the tent, I have a little shower cube from Ironman, the Ironman in Suite. I really got this. I wanted a nice little privacy area to be able to change, go to the bathroom, anything like that. Not only for myself, but for my girlfriend too. She's nice enough to camp with me, so try to provide some of those creature comforts that you wouldn't otherwise have without any of this stuff. So yeah, this has been great. No disrespect to Ironman, the logo was just a little too much for me, so took some acetone to the cover to remove that. But yeah, this is one of the first things that gets opened at camp. Just stake it to the ground, super easy to set up and break down. I don't plan on running an awning on the other side, mainly just because the car is so short as it is. I mean, I'm standing here and I'm already pretty much standing above the height of the tent, so I really don't feel a need to run an awning. I don't really like the idea of having to drop, telescoping legs and have to extend them just to add additional height for headroom. To me, that's not, game changing. I don't need an awning to enjoy camping. So I kind of just left it as it was on that side. I don't plan on adding an awning on at any point. I'm just going to keep it basic. And if I do plan on adding one on, I can consider that in the future. But for now, just going to keep it pretty basic. So yeah, in terms of other modifications that I plan on doing in the future, there really isn't a massive list. I have the car in good standing. It's doing everything I want it to do. Very functional setup. You've heard me say the word functional probably 8 times already or more in this video, but yeah, I can't stress it enough. It's been a really fun vehicle for me. I'd say the next thing up for me in terms of things I want to do, rear bumper. So there's no kits on the market right now for this specific Crosstrek. No nice looking high clearance rear bumpers. I've seen people run, hitch mount spare tire carriers, which I did kind of toy with the idea of that. I do want to run a full size spare. I have one sitting at home, but I can't run it in the setup right now. I could technically mount it on the roof of my tent if I wanted to, but just not really stoked on that setup. And also just the convenience factor of having to take that thing down whenever I need to swap it out. It's not ideal. So yeah, next in line for sure going to be trying to make a just like a custom high clearance rear bumper. I believe the company is called Snailworks, if I'm not mistaken. They make a high clearance rear bumper for the previous generation Crosstrek. So going to try to take some inspiration from that guy. Try to just make a fully tubular, really nice high clearance rear bumper with an integrated swing out tire carrier. Again, I'm trying to keep down weight as much as I can, but also keep the setup extremely functional. So that would be really cool. I also would like to integrate a little drop down table with like a little cutting board. That way I don't have to carry like a massive table with me every time I travel. But for the time being, I'm totally okay with that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, there's not a whole lot else I would really want to do. Refrigeration system would be really nice. I'm running a cooler right now. I do have a fridge in the back right now as we speak, running off a little portable Jackery battery. It's not mine, it's a buddy's, but I was just running it for yesterday's event at Subi Fest. It was 100 degrees out, so just wanted to make sure I was prepared for it. But yeah, my main concern really with running a fridge is size and weight. Those things can get pretty big and it can also get pretty heavy. So with a setup that's already so limited in trunk space, the fridge is just something that I need to weigh my options on, make sure I can really track down the correct fridge option if I do find one. So yeah, on top of that, I also have toyed the idea of running some type of drawer system in the trunk. Goose Gear, who was actually a close friend of ours, just the shop, really cool company. They make storage systems for campers. They make it for vehicles. They make seat delete systems, drawers, fridge slides. They make a list of accessories. So they are making a drawer system for the Crosstrek. I'm sorry, not a drawer system, but just a storage system in general. We got some cool little top hatches. You can mount a fridge slide if you want to, have some nice usable storage space. But I'm really weighing that option because, like I said, you're so limited with storage space already in the trunk as it is. So I'm not sure if I really want to sacrifice that much space for just a drawer system. Also, you lose your factory spare mounting location, which is fine. I'm running a full-size spare, so it won't fit anyways. So not the end of the world for me. But yeah, running that drawer system, running a fridge. I still have my storage bins to run, or at least keep in the car. I have a puppy at home now, and his back seat, or the back seat of my car, is his new home. So I got to make sure that that's freed up for him to hang out in. So yeah, again, very small platform. It forces you to be very strategic with how you pack it. But based on where I sit right now with the Frontrunner storage bins, both soft and the hard bins, I've really kind of dialed in my storage setup, which I don't have them in here right now, but I can, I'll throw a photo up on the screen for you guys to kind of see how I organize my gear. But camp chairs, my kitchen setup, all my recovery gear, I got everything strategically stored in there in a way that I'm not having to maneuver things a certain way to really get it to fit proper. It's very easy. I just have 4 cases I take in and out, and everything's just kind of staged in its own location. So yeah, no, other than that, I mean, there's really nothing else that I foresee myself doing. Cosmetic wise, I'm happy with the way the car looks. I don't really want to do any cosmetic mods. I haven't really done any at this point. I put the tow hook on because the little cover for the bumper blew off. So that's something that's cosmetic and semi-functional, but I mean, it's not my ideal look. Mud flaps, I would say, are really the only thing I've done cosmetically since I got the car. That was strictly for pure looks, not a lot of function. I had the factory mud flaps on it when I got it. They did their job fine. They did okay, but I just like the rally armor setup. I think they look really cool. They're popular in the Subaru space, so I figured why not throw them on. It gave me something to do on a weekend, and they're relatively affordable too. But Yeah, no, other than that, really happy with where the car sits. I didn't have the intent of getting the Subaru when I first got it. Originally, it was an impulsive buy. I bought it within like 3 days of even looking at the car. Um, I didn't have any plans on building it out. I had just the idea was to just use it as a daily driver, just keep my truck as, you know, my designated camp vehicle and enjoy it for what it was. But now the car sits kind of where it's at now, and yeah, I've had some frustrations with it. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I actually, at one point, almost sold it just because I wasn't stoked with how strategic I had to be with, you know, storing things I wanted to keep in there. Have some of the issues I ran into with the mods I did. I wasn't 100% satisfied with it. But you know, there's a reason I stuck with it. There's a reason I wanted to keep taking it out and enjoying it, and it continues to impress me. You know, I run into one issue after another with the things I've done to it, and you know, frustrations just get the best of me, and I tell myself I'm over the car, and then I take it out that same weekend on a trip, and it's doing stuff that I would have never imagined it could do. So I can't continue to complain about it. It's been super fun. It's a really enjoyable vehicle. The fuel economy is great, but not only vehicle specific, but the people that I've met just in the Subaru industry. They've been super helpful. They're willing to answer my questions. I mean, they've been great. You know, coming into the Subaru space, I was brand new to it. I didn't have a lot of previous knowledge on the Subaru platform. So I've met some really cool people that have been willing to talk with me and just kind of walk me through what they think would be best. And then also just from my own influence, pulling stuff off my truck that I knew worked really well and integrating it into this car. It's kind of brought it to where it's at today. So yeah, I hope this video was the slightest bit helpful. I talked to a couple people yesterday at SubiFest. They mentioned that they were really intimidated to start building out their 24 Crosstrek due to various reasons. You know, not knowing what and what isn't compatible, what they should and shouldn't run, not knowing where to start in terms of their build, what they should prioritize over, you know, what they shouldn't, and really just overall the price point of things too. So yeah, I really just want to put this video out there to help people like those people out there. And just give my own insight on why I've done what I've done to it, the issues I've run into, where I've benefited from doing what I've done, and really just give my overall experience with every product that's on the car as it sits today. So yeah, if you guys have any questions that I didn't touch on in this video, feel free to shoot me a message. I'll link my social media down below. Happy to answer any questions you guys have, even if it's not Crosstrek related, just anything off-road related in general. Any questions, just shoot me a message. Happy to respond to it. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, any other questions, feel free to shoot me a message on my Instagram. And thanks. I appreciate it.